Well, we love doing these episodes of Banditland Boulevard. Victory freaking Monday from your guys here at Banditland Boulevard. Trevor Howard, Tony LaMonica. Tony, we took down the Rochester Knighthawks. The boys in the orange and black and the Buffalo Bandits defeated their little brothers by a final score of 13 to 10. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy for me because I said in the preview episode, the Bandits play fantastic playing from behind. And did they ever, Tony? I mean, what a win. Down 5-1. You come back, you get secondary scoring without your best player, and you win 13-10 in Banditland.
Big time victory for the boys in the orange and black. And boy, oh boy, I have to say, even though we had a slow start, like you said, but right at the right moment, the third quarter is where they put the pedal to the metal, and they did not look back at all. All I have to say is that every aspect of the game was going according their way, except for the first quarter, and possibly the second quarter. But again, the third quarter proves that the Buffalo Bandits have saved and conserved their energy for the right moment at the right time.
Exactly. And we were getting to a point to where it was like one goal in the first 23 minutes of the game. And credit Dalton Silver. I mean, you're talking about secondary scoring. You're talking about a solid player on your team in Dalton Silver scoring that first goal. It was a great shot on Riley Hartley. And then you had sort of a defensive breakdown, I want to say, not cashing in on opportunities. I remember the breakaway that Ian McKay had. And then, or no, it was Buchanan had. He took the shot, it went wide, and then McKay had the rebound, and they both couldn't go in. The ball just wasn't bouncing our way in the beginning of that game. But later on, I mean, we're down 5-1, we're getting penalties, and it's looking bad. They get a sixth goal that ends up getting waved off because JT threw the challenge flag about as far as he possibly could, all the way.
He wanted to make sure he hit the refs.
He wanted to make sure, because the refs, we'll get into that too. But my God, these referees are bad. But I mean, a game that could have been 6-1. I didn't see him step into the crease, but I guess he did. Which waved that goal off and completely swung the momentum. Dane Smith having himself a hell of a night. 10 points, including the goal to turn the tide down 5-1 to make it 5-2.
Yeah, like we said before, it's, no Josh Byrne, no Chris Cloutier, and of course, no Chase Fraser. Boy, oh boy, does Dane Smith have to step up, and so did the other offensive players have to step up. Yeah, at first it looked a little rocky. We weren't getting the offensive vibe going right away. But again, like you said, secondary scoring is a must. We haven't seen players like Bryce Sweeting score his first goal this season. We haven't seen McKay get open and scoring goals when needed. And then we had Brandon Robinson, of course, Dalton Silver, Brad McCauley. Guys are stepping up when they need to. And this is the reason why our depth is so strong, is because no matter who's wearing in the orange and black, it's unbelievable the vibe we get offensively from every aspect of every circumstance. And boy, did we get our chances, and we topped Rochester when we needed to at the right time in the right part of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, Rochester was a team that was scorching hot. Then they get blown out by Halifax, and then they have a 5-1 lead on Buffalo, and then what they thought was going to be a 6-1 lead, and we come back, punch them right in the mouth. That's just the way that the Bandits have been playing this year. Last year was a bit of score first, run up the score at halftime, and then hold on to the lead in the third and fourth quarter. This year we're seeing a bit of a cardiac Bandits team, a team that likes to play from behind and plays its best lacrosse when they're playing from behind. And not to mention, we were playing without Josh Byrne.
That's hard.
15,000 screaming Bandits fans without probably the top goal scorer on the team, which is absolutely crazy to think about. But Josh Byrne, that just proves that this team has the ability to go deep into the playoffs because of the overall scoring depth, offensive depth. This team is so good. And the fact that you can come back from 5-1, I know that lacrosse is a game of runs. And Chris Swenson was saying it the whole time. Don't go away. It's a game of runs. We're only down by 4, whatever. Dane Smith scores on the delayed penalty, changes the momentum of the game. And I was telling the people I was sitting with. I was sitting with two of my buddies and my brother at that
Mm-hmm.
game. And I said, if they just make it 5-3, maybe 5-4 at halftime, this is an entirely new ball game or whatever. But they need to get that goal so they don't go down 6-1, 7-1 before that even happens. Dane Smith on the delayed penalty. We only had one power play the entire night, if you really, really believe that, Tony, which is absolutely ridiculous. But
That is.
that huge goal from Dane Smith, just inside the restraining line, top corner. You don't really see Riley Hartley giving up goals like that, especially top shelf, but he gave up quite a few over the shoulder, which was very uncharacteristic.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the 5-hole from Dalton Solver. I can't say enough good things about how great this offense played and how great the defense played in that third quarter. Hard hitting lacrosse. Defensemen are scoring. Defensemen are getting breakaway opportunities. Matt Spanger, Dylan Robinson going in on 3-on-1s. We went on a 12-5 run after we were down 5-1. I believe that
Yep.
was what Johnny Tavares said in his post-game press conference. After we were down 5-1, we went on a 12-5 run the rest of the game. That,
Which is sick.
for you people that don't understand how much Josh Byrne is heavily, I don't even know the word. I mean, respected and just
Mm-hmm.
looked at as the top dog in that locker room, and the fact that he wasn't in the game, you still win by 3. I mean, you could have won by 4 or 5. Rochester scored a couple garbage time goals late in that fourth quarter. You could have won that game by 4 or 5, really punched him in the mouth. But you know what? I'll take wins any way I can get them in Banditland, especially without 22 on the lineup, without number 2 in the lineup, without 95 in the lineup. This team is going to be scary, Tony. By the time the playoffs come around, you're going to have all these guys healthy, fresh, ready to go. Hopefully, we'll have Justin Robinson back to back up that defense a little bit. Hopefully, we'll have Big Nate, the big Nate Kozevnikov to come in and freaking come in and make some noise. This team is going to be scary, man.
Yeah, we can't forget about Frank Brown either, because he's another
Big
one on
bad
the
Frankie
IR as
Brown.
well.
Yep.
So again, defense has really proven themselves worthy. And like we said before in the pregame, Adam Bomberry is a nice asset to this team, especially how defensively he's played his toughest role towards defensively. He's been picking off passes like no other tomorrow. And again, shows that this trade that we made with Philadelphia to get with the Firewolves, forgive me for saying, that we picked up Bomberry, and boy, oh boy, he really picked this defense up as soon as he got the call to say, you're playing from here on in, and look at how good he has done. Shooting wise, defensively, protecting his teammates and making things happen. That's a big play for a new guy to come in and say, I could do that too.
I mean, Adam Bomberry, and it was great to hear Chris Swenson say Bomberry in the lineups. I mean, that was absolutely great to bring back an old gem from back in the day, back in the championship days with
Yep.
Corey. We're doing it now with Adam, which is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, he really stepped up big time. Kellen LeClaire looked very good as well. Justin Martin looked like a different human out there. I mean, outside of that first half, there's a reason why you play 2 halves of lacrosse.
Absolutely.
And scoring 1 goal in 20 minutes is very less than ideal, to put it lightly. But it is a game of runs. You see that third quarter we made? If we play that way, the Bandits, by we, I don't play for the team, but I'm talking about the Bandits. If they play that way for 60 minutes, they can run up the score on some of the top talented teams in this league. Shutting down Connor Field, that defense, without Robinson, losing Kevin Brownell, no Frankie Brown, the fact that they could shut down Connor Fields in that third quarter, that was absolutely incredible to watch, because he was one of those guys I was circling. Other than Ryan Smith, I'm looking at Connor Fields as being that guy that's going to find the back of the net quite a few times, and he did in that second quarter. He was wide open a couple of times, but it's really hard to contain a guy like Connor Fields for the entire game. The way that defense stepped up in that third quarter, I can't give them enough credit. The way that Matt Vince was making incredible saves. We saw him making some crazy jump saves. He'd jump up and block it with his shoulder. He sees the ball's going over his shoulder. We know that that's his kryptonite. Jumps up and blocks it. I'm like, look at Matt Vince go. The whole team was clicking after halftime. And John Tavares, you got to give credit for Johnny T for halftime adjustments.
Yes, I agree with the way how things have gone for the last few games. Like we've been on a roll. We're on 4 games now on a winning streak, and the way how Johnny T has switched it up, a fast and furious start, and then you're gassed later. That might not have been the case. Maybe this come from behind every time has been their protege, and also been their strategic way of kind of like saying, okay, they're gassed up. They've used all their energy up, and now it's our turn to finally put the pedal to the metal. And look what they've done. For the last 4 games, every third quarter, we have outscored our opponents huge. That means that is the right moment where you want to go up against like tough teams like Colorado, San Diego, Toronto, and even Rochester is a proven point. Is that
even Halifax?
Even Halifax, yes. And even though we had a slow start, we're actually taking advantage of the situation by reading what they do. And when they do it, we can anticipate an attack back at them. And that's what the greatest thing about the mindset and the way of thinking that Johnny T is like analyzed every single team he's faced against and says, here, I'm going to write it down. You follow it. And I guarantee you, you won't fail. And it's working 4 straight times, 4 straight games. You can't ask for a better strategic way than doing that. That is a good way to conserve first and then pound it to the next half where it matters most. And again, with guys like that are stepping up, is like you said, Tehoka was shut out last time. He got a goal. Unfortunately, we thought maybe he was going to get at least 2 or 3, but he got 1.
He did get 1.
McKay got a goal. You got Brad have 2. You got Solver having 2, and especially when Dalton Solver, like you said, who kicked it off with our scoring and playing the Rochester goal song when we even were there, put a dagger into them saying, hey, you want to use that song against us? We're going to use the same song against you, and it's going to just drill you saying that's not fair. Is life? No.
No, it's
Neither
not.
is the Bandits when we come out on top, beating you back by 3 like you beat us by 3 in the Blue Cross Arena.
And shout out Rochester Sports Collective on Instagram, who talked so much crap to me after the game in Rochester. And then when I go to troll him on Instagram after the big Bandits win, he deletes all the comments.
Not it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Big shout out to you.
He does not want to hear
coward, you absolute buffoon. Shout out to you, Rochester Sports Collective. We didn't ever lose our team to Halifax. I mean, you want to talk all this crap about the Bandits? We've been here since '92. We didn't lose our team to a team in Nova Scotia, and then had to come back as an expansion team. Never will have to do that anyway. So big shout out to him. And I believe Dalton Solver had, I don't remember what his goal song was, but it was not Jukebox Hero. By
yes, it was.
Before that, he specifically changed it for the Rochester game, almost like a motivation, like, hey, I know I'm going to score against these guys. Give me the ball. Let me score first and let that song play, basically what was happening. And looked like they were really trying to feed him. I don't know if that was planned or anything, but he was wide open top of the slot. Gave it to him, took a nice shot, went right in, and it was great. And Dane Smith was so good in that game too. He's really made his mark in this league as one of the primary goal scorers. I didn't find out till the end of the freaking game this guy had 10 points. I mean, you talk about silent 10-point game. Only Dane Smith could do that, because that's how good of a player he is. You expect him to score 8 to 10 points a night. But, I mean, he was obviously first star of the game, 4 goals. I told my buddies who I was sitting with, if he scores 2 more, I'm running down. Because we were in 115, section 115. I'm running down and throwing my socks on the field. Maybe next time, because we know that guys like Dane Smith and Josh Byrne, Chase Frazier, some of those guys can score 6 goals in a game. So I will get my shot this year. I guarantee you that, because, I don't know, I think the next game I'm going to is against Colorado. And I think that's like March 18th or so.
March 18th.
Maybe I'll go to a Philly game or something. I'll figure that out. But I still got plenty of opportunities to throw my socks on the field, because I know that 92 is always going to be out there, and 22 is going to be out there. Matt Vince, I honestly think he should have been star number 2 in that game. The way that he battled after he was down 5-1. Ryan Smith is a great player. Give him star number 3. I'll give Matt Vince star number 2. Dane Smith star number 1.
Yeah, I like the fact that when you said about that, with the whole change with Matt Vince being number 2 and being Ryan Smith being number 3. Yeah, Ryan Smith is a cancer, I think, to the Buffalo Bandits because
He is the
also
who was the guy in Colorado that kept Zed Williams. He is the
yeah,
Zed
Zed
Williams of
Williams.
Rochester,
He
always scoring
is.
against
I
us.
agree with that
Yep.
because he is dangerous. But you got to also realize that both Ryan Smith and Dane Smith have played on the Chaos together. You got to understand that too. And that's why they know each other so well about offensively, how to, interact and how to make plays happen. And that's another guy that we have to watch out for besides Connor Fields and besides other former Bandit players that are on that team like Hogarth and Gilray. But again, there was a lot of chirping going on between those two. And boy, oh boy, it seemed like they didn't care about leaving Buffalo or they just moved on to Rochester or they didn't like the trades. I mean, listen, you're playing lacrosse, end of story. Just represent your team well, but don't sound like a badass too when you're talking smack and thinking you can just do what you can do. But again, put it on the scoreboard. That's all you can do.
Exactly.
Other than that, you cannot really talk smack when you're down. You cannot, if you're going to try to like cause penalties and that, which again, we need to really figure out about how to shut our mouths. I'm sure Johnny T has probably told the boys, listen, they're going to try to get you to falter their, add to their ego with whatever talk they're saying to you.
And the refs are soft.
Go.
And the refs are soft.
Yes, I agree. Because 16 minutes compared to 2 minutes only for Rochester. Come on, guys.
Give me a freaking break.
It's like a favoritism that nobody wants to see Buffalo at all in playoff mode, or they're just too damn good. We got to slow them down somehow, but that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, the 10-minute misconduct. I don't know what was said. Of course, the referees wouldn't tell us what was being said.
Of course,
you could tell Johnny T and that coaching staff. I mean, he challenged twice. He threw the red flag out twice. One, he threw kind of far. The second one, which was going to be the 6th Rochester goal, he heaved that almost to the penalty box. He was so frustrated. Johnny T wasn't having it. Fans weren't having it. I mean, we can't even. And at the end of the game, where Max Adler gets cross-checked in the face after the face-off, I think Adler got someone in the back, and then somebody came over and retaliated, hit him in the face. The game's already over. 26 seconds, up by 3. Why don't the refs just let them go? They know that they're rivals. Let them fight. I mean, the fans paid good money to see this great game. Might as well end it with a battle at midfield. You had some tough guys out there, man. You had Steve Priolo out there. You had McCulley, and you had Max Adler out there. 3 guys that could really throw him. That could really swing him. So, but the referees all night, 10-minute misconduct was absolutely ridiculous. Bryce Sweetings was probably the only call I would say that was legitimate. Even though Ryan Smith did kind of sell it and embellish on that. But you can't cross-check someone in the back when they don't have the ball. That's going to get called every time, no matter what. But I think you should have gotten Smith for the embellishment, too, and it could have been 4-on-4 lacrosse.
Instigating.
But speaking of Bryce Sweeting, and we'll get back into the referees, he scored a goal. He scored a goal. He did. We love seeing secondary scoring, and he attempted a gritty, doing the gritty.
That was great.
And
oh, my God.
You be the judge. I think it looked more like he was doing the butterfly or like doing something. I don't think that was the gritty, but it was great to see Bryce Sweeting getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, that definitely really sparked up a lot of people, especially doing the kind of like the Buffalo Bills theme song for every time they score points.
Oh yeah, the shout song was his goal.
The shout song was on.
Yeah.
So again, that was great to hear too. But also another thing too, when I'm checking online too on the stat sheet, I think Max Adler won more than fair share than what they claimed that they had. He said he won only 15 out of 27 faceoffs. I disagree. I think he won well over 20 or better.
I think so.
Because I mean.
It was that second quarter where he was having some difficulty. The second quarter, the whole team was having difficulties with everything. Adler lost a few in the second, a few consecutive faceoffs. But that third quarter and fourth quarter, the dude was on fire.
Yeah, he found his rhythm really quick. And I thought for sure, I'm like looking at this, I'm going, there's no possible way he only won 50% of his faceoffs. I thought it was well more than that.
Yeah, and the refs were letting them go, which was actually a good thing about these referees. They weren't calling as many faceoff violations at all.
That's true.
And both teams were cycling the ball really, really well in the offensive zone, relying on letting the ball go out of bounds after it hits the goalie to get the ball back, getting rebounds and bouncing shots off the pad and getting the rebound back and resetting the clock. both teams were doing that very, very efficiently, which made it a great game. But these referees, I think we say it every single week.
They got to get better.
We have to find, I think, I swear to God, I think they find referees that are just off the street, maybe just out of their cars. Hey, you want to referee this game? I don't know how, but sure.
Yeah.
And we got to find referees that are in shape. I mean, this is why people that are like casual fans, and I'm not like weight shaming anybody, but when you have the referees with the giant beer guts, I mean, that's just a bad look for your sport. Nobody wants to see it. Either tuck it, put a tight belt around your waist, or
Oh God.
please find some referees that are in shape. It's
Any
casual fan, any casual fan that goes to this game is probably thinking, how could I find these guys, these referees legitimate, that they're making the right calls when they look like that? Like,
I know. It's just so brutal. I can't believe it myself. It's like, here, have another donut and sit down. You might have a heart attack. But Jesus,
yeah, right. Like Jim Schoenfeld, right?
Like,
In
get
the
back in
Sabres.
shape themselves.
What did he say? He said, "Have another donut," right?
Yeah, exactly. That is so crazy.
Wow.
Just freaking real.
I think for every win the Bandits have, they should have an extra win because they're always playing the refs. We should have 14. We should be 14-2 right now.
If that's possible, but we haven't played that many games yet, have we?
Nope, but we have faced two teams every single week, the referees and whoever we're facing against.
That's true.
This time it was the refs and the Knighthawks. Who Steve Priolo. I have very differing opinions on this, but if he's going to be your captain, and he did score, which was great. He scored the tying goal to make it 5-5. But you got to know that these referees are soft. Just walk away. Don't say anything. It's a bad look if you're wearing the C and you're yapping, you're getting 10-minute misconducts in back-to-back games.
Yeah, true. I mean, when I was sitting with my buddy Joe that we have season tickets with, he even said he needs to shut his mouth because that's all it's going to do is just cause problems, and staying out of the box is a big key to this game. Because again, like you said, it's a game of runs, and boy, oh boy, when you give them 10 minutes, even though it was 5-on-5, because the referee was telling them 5-on-5 or telling Johnny T, I guess they only sent out 4 people, but they're like, no, get your 5th guy out there. He's only sitting for 10 because he deserves 10.
Yeah, but Johnny thought he was getting 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike.
Correct, but that's the other thing is that it was only marked as a 10-minute misconduct, so it takes you out of the game, and that kind of sucks too because he is your defensive go-to guy. And again, buddy, I don't know what was said to you to fire it up and what your reaction was.
But these refs need to grow a set. They need to grow a set and just walk away.
They got to get on point.
Yep.
But again, it's like if Steve Priolo just walked up and says, can you please explain to me, and I can at least put my input on it as a professional and then just go from there. And then we can hopefully things doesn't happen twice. But again, got to stay disciplined. You got to not be in the box. You got to be smarter than this. Yes, I understand you're frustrated. Yes, I understand the momentum of the game shifted their way at first. But again, the only way is that you grind it out and you become the team you are, is that you keep fighting through. And they did. That's why they won 13-10.
13-10, Buffalo Bandits take the W over the Rochester Knighthawks. Guess what, Tony?
Huge win.
We are at the top of the Eastern Conference right now. Out of 8 teams in the East, the Bandits are back where they belong in first place. They do have a game in hand over Rochester, and if Rochester wins next week, since the Bandits are on a bye, that is going to be – they're going to have to determine a tiebreaker by records versus division opponents.
Yes.
And then if that is even tied, they have to
goal differential, I think, isn't it?
I believe goals for versus goals against. And Buffalo has a plus 26, I believe the last time I checked, while Rochester has a plus 11. So we win. We check off all the boxes. Rochester, I believe, plays Halifax next week. So we are going to be big Thunderbirds fans. And thank you, Calgary, for beating Halifax in overtime. 12-11.
That was huge for us. Big time.
Getting us some separation in the standings. Now we're just pulling for Toronto to start losing.
That's correct.
And I don't know why, but they're wearing these ugly Pittsburgh Steelers colored uniforms. When did the Toronto Rock turn black and yellow? I have no idea. But
I don't know either.
It's disgusting. It's beyond me. We don't like Toronto Rock anyway. But except for my boy Corey Small. You can't do him dirty. I love me some Corey Small. But Huge win, Tony. I mean, overall
Hmm.
great experience. The crowd was in it the whole time. 15,000 fans. Probably the best attendance since probably since the New Year's Eve game, I want to say, or the day
Yeah,
before New Year's Eve. Both solid.
absolutely.
I think that was 13,000. This was 15,000. There is
Hmm.
no other city, no other experience like this whatsoever.
Yeah, you want to talk about the best fans in the land? This is definitely us in Banditland because we go to games, we fill the stands up in our KeyBank Center, and boy oh boy, folks, if you don't get tickets now and experience one yourself, if this is even your first game or it's been your 10th or even your 100th, it gets better every single time. Get your tickets now. I mean, I know we have a week off. Much needed too for Josh Byrne to get his high ankle sprain. And good news,
You have some
folks.
inside information on that. You
I
got some
actually
inside
do. I
information.
actually do, which is great, is that he's okay. He's taken the week that he necessarily needs off so he can get himself back to being 100%. He will be back February 18th against Philadelphia. That lineup for sure. He will be back in the lineup. But I've also heard another rumor.
Through the grapevine. This was
Maybe.
live via Cobblestone, right?
Yeah, I heard
Cobblestones.
through heard through the grapevine that good old 95 may have his return too. Not that game, but maybe the very next game after. I'm not sure,
And I believe that's a
but
road
it was
game in
the talk.
Halifax. I believe
It
that's
was
a
the
road game in.
talks between what they should do with Chase. So
Yep.
get ready, folks. It's just going to get stronger from here.
Oh, and you know what, Tony? That
Yes,
game
sir.
that's happening on February 18th, that is also a
Mm-hmm.
home game. So if you want to see
Yes.
Josh Burns return, because we had that, you got that inside information from Josh Burns' mouth at
Mm-hmm.
Cobblestone. So
Yep.
that's the most inside information you can get. That is a home game, February 18th at 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets for that game, and then
Absolutely,
they have
folks.
another bye week after that. So I'd expect Chase Frazier back for the March 3rd game when they travel up to the Great White North to take on Halifax. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to be on March 3rd, and then the game after that, Halifax comes to Buffalo on March 10th, and then
Yep.
Colorado comes to Buffalo on March 18th. We got some. You know what, Tony? I know that
Tough games ahead.
we're gonna do a preview game or a preview episode of all these, but guess what? They're all beatable. Tony, we're
They
at the
are.
top of the league. That means I mean we're at the top of the conference at least. I think San Diego's number one overall in the league.
Yep.
And we
And
have
we
we
play
have
them this year too.
yes we do on the road, which is going to be a tough
On the
environment.
road.
That's March 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so it's got to be
Yep.
4 o'clock Pacific time, which is interesting.
Yep.
Afternoon game, but these next four games, Tony, Philly, Halifax again in
Halifax.
Colorado. 3 out of the 4 are at home. Expect big things. You're expecting 95 back. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
about number 2, but Chase Frazier coming back.
He's still on a cast with his hand. He's not going to be returning very soon.
Hopefully he'll come back for the playoffs because we know that something has to drastically go wrong for us to miss. I think we're going, and
Yep.
we want that 5th championship. These are all winnable games. We want to run up that record. We want to take this division by storm.
Yes, sir.
What better way to do it than have 3 out of the next 4 be at home in Banditland?
Absolutely. And guys, also, for those of you who are watching us on YouTube Live, we really appreciate and thank you. Hit that like and subscribe button right now and punch that notification bell if you want in on intel about the Buffalo Bandits lacrosse. And of course, always listen to us on Spotify.fm, where we like to have a 5-star rating and have you guys listen in, and please by all means listen to us, and like we said, we're going to try to get people on board. I know we got a lot of people asking me about tomorrow's episode too. That
Yeah,
Trevor, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, okay. So you know what? Inside information here, okay? I think that you guys have seen this on Bandits Mafia on
Yep.
the Facebook page,
Facebook.
but for those that follow me on Spotify and follow us on Spotify that don't have a Facebook, don't know what's going on, don't know the inside scoop, we have our first Bandits player going to get interviewed tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
night at 9:15 Eastern Time. Should be uploaded by 10:30 tomorrow night Eastern Time. As far as that's going to be Tuesday, February 7th. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be interviewing number 10, who scored 2 goals against Rochester. Brad
Yep.
McCulley is joining the show as our first ever player guest, so we can't wait to have him on. We're going to ask him a lot of good questions and just get some inside information on him, maybe just have some fun with him. So that's going to be
Yep.
really, really, really fun. If you guys want to see that stuff, you can always subscribe and you can always like our show, 5-star review, all that good stuff. That'd be greatly appreciated. And also, I think we almost forgot to do our player of the game too.
Yeah, we got to do that too as well. Why don't you go first?
Player of the game. I'm going to say, this is tough. But in that third quarter, the guy that really turned the tide and blew the game open. I could always say the first star of the game, Dane Smith, but that would just be like a broken record because he does it all the time.
True.
The guy that blew the game open, Brandon Robinson, in that third quarter. When he scored,
Nice.
they're playing rah rah Rasputin, getting the whole place going. Brandon Robinson is going to be an explosive forward for this team, and I can't wait for the years to come. But he was the guy that really, I mean, Steve Priola with the tying goal was huge. And then I believe Dane Smith scoring the 6th goal. But then when freaking Brandon Robinson scored that 7th goal, I'm like, to make it 7-5, I
Yep.
knew we weren't losing that game. I knew we were going to take that game and win it from here on out. So big game from him.
I'm going to take a different perspective, and that's because of the person who really sets the tone when it first starts off, and that is to our boy number 6, Max Adler.
Yep.
Adler's the face-off god right now in Buffalo Banditland. He is really improved from last year, and he only is going to get better for us now and then. And just, I'm telling you right now, without him and winning those much needed face-offs and starting plays off, he is my player of the game. So, Max, if you're listening, I choose you, sir. Well done.
And honorable mention, future friend of the show, Brad McCulley, scoring 2 goals, and
Yep.
Dalton Solver. But obviously, Dane Smith, Matt Vince, Ian McKay, all those guys. We could throw out players of the game. I bet you we have for those guys thousands of times. But a guy like Dalton Solver, Brad McCulley, Dalton Solver, a call-up. I mean, he was a healthy scratch for the grand majority of last year, and then he draws first blood for the Bandits the next game. Shows you the whole depth on this team.
That's right.
I mean, it's just, nothing feels better than beating the Knighthawks. I love beating the Toronto Rock. I love
revenge is so sweet to those
beating
that
the
are
Wings.
against them.
we love sweet taste of revenge. It's the sweetest drink in all the land. We love that stuff. But also, we like beating Philadelphia. Feels good. We like beating Toronto. Feels really good. We like beating Calgary, Colorado. That all feels good, well and good. Georgia, yeah, whatever. But when you beat Rochester, it's like a different high. I mean, that is like euphoric, beating the Rochester Knighthawks and sending them home. So, especially a come from behind win when the Rochester Knighthawk fans were standing up, clapping, pointing at all the Bandits fans, saying, "We own you," doing that Aaron Rodgers stuff. Only to have the Bandits come back and win 13-10. You can't make the stuff up. It's so good.
Oh, it was great seeing the fact that when Rochester came down to our side and all we were doing is waving goodbye, saying, "Yeah, how was that first win again?" Yeah, it doesn't.
It's in the past.
So good now when it's in the past. Goodbye. Yep.
But yes,
guys, we also want to say thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for who's been watching our shows, who's been listening in on the radio. We really appreciate you guys supporting us as well. And on behalf of Trevor Hauer and myself, Tony LaMonica, a.k.a. Boxhead98, saying one sentence for you guys here to say, and that is, let's go.
Bandits.
Bandits.
Let's go.
Let's go.